back, ladies and gentlemen. With that, we move on to the third panel discussion of the day, titled Role of the CFO in Established Companies versus New Age Digital Companies. And we have a power-packed panel with us today. So without further ado, let me welcome and introduce the members of this panel. Jayaprakash, Kalappan, Chief Financial Officer and Company Secretary, Panasonic Appliances India Company Limited. Sugata, Sircar, Chief Financial Officer, Schneider Electric India. Neelesh, Talathi, Chief Financial Officer, Pepperfry. Nitin, Khanna, Chief Financial Officer, Inorbit Malls. Ashish, Jain, Chief Financial Officer, LoanTap. Amit, Malpani, Chief Financial Officer, Edelweiss AMC. And Jyotirmoy Chakraborty, Director, Business Transformation, Office of Finance, Oracle, India. This panel will be moderated by Vivek Belgavi, FinTech Leader, PwC India. Vivek, the virtual floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Ivan. Well done as always. What a fantastic panel. Great mix of established companies and emerging digital companies. And we'll look forward to a matchup of how the finance function is being digitized and being taken a look at. I thought I'd just kickstart to give some context by picking up some information from a CFO survey we had done in PwC. There are three interesting facts which came out of it, which I thought could help some context. One, 31% of the CFOs felt the hybrid work is not a challenge to the revenue, and they were more bullish on the revenue compared to 20% of all executives. So that function was a little more bullish, probably having had a view on kind of investments that the CFOs have been supporting in their organizations. However, 48% see the loss of in-person corporate culture as the biggest challenge of hybrid work. And to that extent, they have been putting money behind such diversity and inclusion and those kind of initiatives behind it. At the same time, 68% are increasing their the investments in the digital space. And where are the investments going? The key topics of conversations are, of course, cloud, working with startups, agile technologies, cyber, automation, so on and so forth. With that context, why don't we kickstart the conversation? Jayaprakash, sir, let me start with you. How do you set up? What's the case for change? What are the current challenges that you're seeing, as well as the business demands? How are they evolving, requiring a case for change?
Thank you, Vivek, for this opportunity. If you see our company is a Panasonic Appliances, we are dealing with the kitchen appliance product. We have about 500 plus distributors and another 400 plus are dealers. Also, we are buying our raw material from the Pan India for different parts of parties, different part of the countries. But the issue here is that when you do the main thing for this the CFO role for the digital economy, especially on the how we are moving this, especially our industry, how we are taking care of this part. We don't know any technology. See that any technology, it has life of maximum 3 to 4 years, right? So every 3 to 4 years, we have to change it, or we have to adapt the technology what we are into. So, so as we are CFO, the challenge what I am facing here is that we don't know what will be the next disturbance. So disturbance in the sense of how the technology move on, whether the current the technology what we are using now, whether that will be support my future business. So that is the main thing I want to focus on that. The other one is that the whatever the things we are using now, whether that will be that is supporting right now the internal and external system, both the things. But my worry is that, or my challenge here is that whether the same system still can be support for my current needs. So whether this need to be upgraded, or whether I need to change. The other one is that we have several apps in the industry, right? So some apps we are using, but I want to know that all the apps can be connect together so that I can use my my requirement whether that can be fulfilled. So this all the several labs to be make it. The other challenge I might face the employee skills, the lack of employee skills on the technology front. Because nowadays, so far we have been doing this traditional accounting and the account closure. Now everyone expecting the real-time accounting. See whether real-time accounting that can be done with our technology and the digital way, but whether the employees up to the date they can able to grasp it up, whether the technology can be support with them. So that is the other part to check it. The last one is that at what point should I invest in the digital transformation? So there are many cases. As a CFO, we should know that what is our long-term plan and short-term plan. So what is the point when we need to transformation by digitally? So digital things, either accounting or operation, whatever cases. So these are the challenges. Not only from my side, even any CFO may face this kind of challenges.
Thank you so much, Jayaprakash, for setting the context very nicely. Ashish, if I bring you in just as a counter perspective, from as you're a new age digital enterprise, you haven't had the challenge of a legacy. So how do you see, like, what is the case for change for you, and how do you see that different from an established enterprise?
Thank you, Vivek, and being a pleasure to be on this panel. So in my view, the biggest channel we face as a fintech is to how we remain ahead of in terms of technology, right? Because nowadays, if we say that technology is just privileged to few, that I think that's not the case. Everybody is enhancing the technology, right? So as a fintech, we need to ensure that we always one step ahead so that we we solve the issues which others are currently working on, and we do next level thing. Besides this, I think all of us would agree that now we move to an era where we are not driving technology, rather technology is driving all of us, right? Be it any function, be it business, be it product, be it finance, and be it customer service. So the problems which we solve day in day out using technology is, of course, we solve on the fast attack, on the ensuring that compliances are there. Then we solve product segment, because what banks are doing, we do almost all processes, all credit underwriting processes, but in a much faster way, right? So a technology has to work seamlessly, and it has to work much faster, and it has to give us the desired output, which banks typically take maybe a little more time. So otherwise, in terms of technology as a fintech, we constantly evolve into new sectors, like there are many platformation of technologies happening these days. So if you talk about now, there are no difference between be it a small fintech or be it a large bank. All of us can work together using technology and come on the same platform and do the business. So as a fintech, I think the challenge which we face is to have an edge over others and solve the issues which others are currently might not have faced. I mean, they may face it on the later stage, and that's what we look for.
Thanks, Ashish. Sugata sir, bringing now another established company point of view in your industry, in your organization. What is the case for change? What is the reason to start thinking about transformation?
Yeah, hi everyone. I mean, the case for change is, of course, technology is all pervading. But in terms of the challenges, let me talk about the process of implementation and the basic challenges relating to that. And the second piece is obviously to transform the finance organization itself. So in the first case, if you think about the traditional finance activities like accounting, reporting, controlling, etc., internal controls, there is great scope for automation. So what we're doing is, we're doing RPAs, and then you could do the automation of balance sheet schedules. Just to give some examples, you could do embedded controls, you could do control testing automation, etc. So there's one piece of it which is automating activities or doing, let us say, consistent accounting in terms of accounting policies, so that your revenue recognition is kind of automated and systematized and so on and so forth. The other piece of the ask is more data related, what you do with data. So when you do financial planning and forecasting, how you use data for business intelligence, how you do analytics, etc. And then it is becoming our job also to make data available in dashboards for other functions to use in a democratic way, if I may say so. So this is the other piece of it. So in all this, the first thing is, what we are realizing is, unless you have your basis right, and I say what I mean by basics, it's very difficult to do all of this. And what I mean is, your master data, your transactional data have to be consistent, your accounting policies have to be consistent across business divisions if you have several. So there is a lot of basics that we find that we have to work on and get consistent in terms of data consistency, in terms of consistency of how transactions are processed, how they're reported, etc. So we are spending a lot of time and resources in getting these basics right. So this is one challenge, because this is the kind of not fancy part of it, which you have to get in place before you can do anything fancy like good data analytics. Because if you want data to flow from ERP to reporting tools very seamlessly, or to a data lake from which you can do data analysis, or predictive scenario planning, or data sensing and all that, demand sensing and all that, you need data to be really robust and one version of truth. So we are finding that we have to spend a lot of time to putting this in place. The second piece of the challenge is to reorganize the finance function per se, because with all these changes, when you automate accounting transactions, when you automate preparation of balance sheet schedules, or management reporting, or internal control testing, uh, the person's role changes. What a finance person will do in these roles changes. A significant part of the controlling function can be automated or process driven. And so when that happens, the controller's job then shifts to using the output in partnering with the business, or drawing out the risk parameters, and ensuring mitigation and all that. So we are kind of almost rewriting what each role definition should do in the transformed finance function. This is more radical, where we have to use with data, because this then needs new skills. And then if people who have been engaged in generating reports or communicating reports now don't have to do all that, but have to use the analytics and then engage with the business, then engagement with the business, which is called business partnering, becomes a skill that has to be developed. So these are the areas of challenge, if you want to call them challenge, but areas of transformation which we are working on in this
Of an
context.
opportunity as well. Fantastic, Sugata.
Yes.
Neelesh, if I get into the conversation.
Hello.
What we have heard till now, established organization, you're always undergoing a change. But when you're let's say a digital native organization, have a chance to set up things right, do you see a difference in the way you see challenges as opposed to the established CFOs we have spoken till now?
Yeah, Vivek, in a way, yes, and in a way, no. Quite honestly, I think there are some things which I sort of echo. I think getting your basic right is something I'll absolutely echo. There are some things I echo, but here are sort of two broader themes, if I could think about them that way. One is, I think it's still fairly easy to figure out how to do things differently. It is usually more difficult to figure out what different to do. And I think today technology is so advanced that we should be actually thinking about what is it different that I should be doing, and not what is it that I should only be doing differently. And I think that is really one area where we are grappling with. Maybe one of the advantages that we have is, as you called out, we don't have legacy systems with us, but effectively, can we not really be just working conventional plus? Can we actually go unconventional and do things very different? Is the challenge really that I see out here. I think the second challenge that I see is, and maybe this is me sitting where I sit, but I think there is no longer a need to persuade people to go down the technology path. I think that digital transformation has been bought in by all the stakeholders, and I think there are more believers than non-believers. And therefore, I think the counter challenge now is what to choose and how to choose, because it seems like everybody wants to go down this path. And the reason the counter challenges become bigger is because as you transform or as you bring on new initiative, honestly, in the short term, the cost structure is not changing. It's not that because you're trying to put in new technology, people are going to reduce or processes are going to become simpler. And therefore, the cost structure is not changing. On the other side, quite honestly, a lot of technologies are still nebulous and you don't really know the revenue impact of it. I mean, it's nice to speak AI, it's nice to speak ML, but honestly, it's still very early days to sort of figure out how will AR come and change consumer habits, and therefore to what extent will having spent money on AR, our site will become more vibrant and will be able to have greater offtake. And I think therefore those business cases are still not firm, but the cost structure is not changing, and there is a demand all around the business in terms of investing more. And therefore, I think that whole choice sort of paradigm has become very difficult. So those are my sort of two things. One is, can we really do things different and not just differently, and put resources there? And then even as things like AR, ML, etc. are evolving around us, how do we make those choices when cost structures don't necessarily change in the short term?
Fantastic. Amit, we heard a couple of interesting points. How do we do things different versus differently? Also, the fact that when we are doing a transformation in an existing shop, we would have to keep in mind what will happen to new roles. Like that's the important challenge. What also interesting is we are also seeing some common themes like the need for digital transformation or leveraging technology. Everyone understands. I wouldn't expect differently. All CFOs are definitely a lot more pragmatic. We would definitely want bang for the buck for what you're investing in, so not getting carried over with hype. Great common themes coming through, Amit. In your industry, again, mutual fund is an interesting industry. There's a fair bit of dependency on a lot of partners. How do you build on this conversation, and what are the challenges that you think are relevant to you?
Yeah, I think thank you, Vivek, first of all, giving the opportunity for part of this panel discussion. I think to start with, I think historically, the role of accounts and finance and accounts professional was basically, to prepare financials, calculating profit and loss, and then presenting it to the board. Now, the role has become more versatile, actually. The CFOs are expected to act as in business advisors, partners, and, consultants for the business, so that the informed decision can be taken. Coming as it is said, the business grows in the complexity and size, the expectations from the CFO also increases. So coming to mutual fund specific per se, again, historically the role was not much as such important, provided all those critical functions basically was working on an outsource model, to an external professional organizations and all. However, now the dynamics have changed. It is basically, all those data, digitalization, everything has come risk. There are SEBI circulars which comes in every day, day in out. So from that perspective, the expectations from CFO also has increased. Many of the fund houses, few of the fund houses already listed, and few of are in process of listing and all. So from that perspective, also the role of a CFO also becomes important. Few fintech startup are entering into mutual fund space. It is yet to be seen how much disruption they bring to the table in this regulated entity. But those are the entities who are also coming into the space. I think 3-4 things on the challenges side, basically data, digitalization, risk, and then the regulations, stakeholders scrutiny on all those things. So data is available today. which fund house is earning what are the expense ratios, what are the yields are getting generated, what is the AUM, what is the ranking, and all those things. So from that perspective, it becomes more important to track all those and provide the input to the business so that, informed decision can be taken. In terms of digitalization, everything, today no one, wants to go to a bank. Same way for the investment also, no one today wants to go to an mutual fund branch. Everything should be online in terms of investments and all. So app-based investment, centralized KYC, centralized account statement. Today, many of the fund houses even started doing non-commercial transaction NCT, which we call online. So with the digitalization, so as an CFO, you need to consider providing all those services to the end user consumers while remain the cost conservative. That is a thing. Apart from that, I think the circular, there is already risk management framework circular from SEBI, which is almost of a 50 pages circular, which clubs all the risk which can be part of the mutual fund industry. Implementing those circular and to continue that we continue to remain compliant with all those regulations and all is something which became the role of an CFO into a mutual fund industry very important. We are basically moving towards a technology era in terms of getting the data online, real-time basis accounting and all those things. So broadly speaking, those are the challenges, and we are as an industry and as an emerging entity are covering all those things.
Thank you so much, Amit. What I'm finding interesting in the conversation till now is how we are getting a diverse view across industries. But yes, there is a commonality of challenges as well as aspirations which is coming through. The second piece is also when you have more established industry, like in your case, as example, you also tend to be in a more regulated space. Many of the emerging digital enterprises are in a quasi-regulated space. Not all of them. They're also doing digital native regulated entities as well. Which does a compliance burden, or how do I handle with compliance? That complexity is also something which probably the established folks will have a little bit more than the new folks coming up. Probably we'll understand that further. Nitin, bringing you into the conversation, if you can give a sense of the industry you are part of, a CFO of, and what are the challenges which are quite specific to those?
Hi Vivek, good afternoon. So I represent mall industry, and I'm sure everybody on the panel might be going to the malls. So we have 5 malls across India, part of K. Raheja Group. We are managing around 625 brands all across India. And we manage footfalls of around 5 crores per annum. So 5 crore people are visiting, these 5 malls, on an annual basis. And I think entire COVID scenario was pretty bad and bleak for all of us. Almost 6 months, whenever the scare comes, the first thing to shut down is mall. So we, apart from the challenge of being a company which is there, the corporate which is there for more than 50 years, the challenges were huge. And the first was the work from home. I'm sure, all the CFOs on the panel, might have gone through the same challenge, of not the ones who are, high on tech, especially the FinTech part. So for a legacy company like us, getting 140 laptops in 5 days was itself a challenge. So that's transformation. I would say the first transformation started over there. The mindset of each and every employee who wanted to resist on the changes, I think within 1 week of the lockdown, this entire thing got changed. And I think the challenges, as we have seen in last 2 years, we haven't seen in last 54 years, especially from the tech perspective, I would say. The expectations have increased. The areas or the opportunities, have also increased. There's a problem of plenty, I would say. The expectations from, especially from a CFO perspective, I would say is the first is the activity digital, which, Sugata was talking about, how the activity can be digitized. You have papers all across, on the tables. How can we have paperless tables and paperless transactions? So that's something which is the biggest challenge in us. connection everywhere, anywhere. So, as a legacy, we had issues like we don't allow pen drive access. There are VPN accesses. There are three-step, if you have to enter into a server. So all those, I think within 7 days or 10 days, all the firewalls problem, they actually went off. And the expectation was that we should be connected from anywhere, everywhere. Somebody sitting in South, working from home versus somebody sitting in Amritsar, all our employees need to be connected. The lowest cost and the maximum efficiency. That is the next challenge. You need to have technologies at lowest cost, which can give me data. As Sugata and Neelesh were talking about, data is there, but how you will utilize it, how you can analyze to make decisions faster. So that was again a bigger challenge for us. Next was compliances. GST is all. So government has been on the forefront. This is the first time in last 5 years you see the government is on the forefront and giving us a challenge, saying that we have become digitized. When are you becoming digitized? So in income tax, GST, indirect tax, excise, everything is getting connected. Non-compliance on Companies Act will show somewhere in income tax. So somebody from either of the sides will stand up and say, hey guys, have you reported it correctly? So the legacy systems, when you talk about legacy systems, people can get away with anything, I would say, but now it's really difficult. So expectation from all of us is getting up and ready. You should be compliant at the same time. And more from a business perspective, I would say the digital ask is much more. As a consumer, I'm sure when you get into the mall. So there are basically 3 times you get entry into the mall, you shop, and you exit. I think while entering, you expect that your frisking should be faster. You should get inside faster. While you're shopping, the experience should be amazing, and while you're exiting, you should not be waiting on the parking queue. So digital options are so many that every day I'm meeting one vendor. But again, going back to everybody's point, including Neelesh's, which vendor should choose. There are too many options, who to rely on. So these are few of the challenges. As we go along, I'll talk more about it.
Fantastic, Nitin. Thanks for making it so real. Jyotirmoy, and saved best for the last. You also have a fantastic vantage point of being a technologist who works across sectors. So I had 2 questions for you, right? So one is your own observation of looking at the market. Where are you seeing the real case for change? And second is a quick summary from your lens, having heard everyone. What are the themes that you are seeing emerge?
Thanks, Vivek. Thanks for inviting in this session. A couple of points. I was just noting, a couple of point of view from Neelesh and Mr. Jayaprakash and Ashish. I think this will give us the real perspective. I'll start with Mr. Jayaprakash said that the change in next 3 to 4 years. Neelesh spoke about how you can do things differently. This really shows that CFOs are working as a change agent in the organization. I'll talk about the statement from Mr. Ashish. He said that how you can make FinTech ahead of the curve. It means that they're making the organization future ready. So a couple of points is very evident. The discussion, with a technology partner like us and the CFO's office has changed entirely. It is no more AI, ML, no more ARAP, GL, and balance sheet discussion. It has changed entirely. So CFOs are more keen to know how we can, use, BI. We can use, AI, ML, blockchain. Sugata spoke about RPA, robotics, and so on and so forth. I think the change I can see is more of an outcome-based initiative. CFOs are more keen to know, hey, can you reduce my timeline for book closing, and how? Can you help me in the reporting in pre and post IPO era? So I think the change is evident. I can see a lot of traction is happening in the CFO's office, and it is more towards technology enablement. In fact, a lot of IT transformation today are being led by CFO's office. So Vivek, huge traction in CFO's office, huge change, and I can see that CFO's office is taking more initiative towards this transformational journey.
Awesome. I thought I'll just add one more point, which in my work, one of the part of work I do is really innovation. And when we run innovation workshops, if I take one example of a client, naturally the first team which gets very excited are the consumer facing teams. But in this client, somehow the CFO's office had taken a front that they would want to reimagine stuff and really came up with cool stuff. So they're very curious to say, okay, give us example from any sector, right? So I just threw an example to say in Netflix, where almost like for 30% of the net traffic today, online traffic goes to Netflix, right? Imagine the amount of scale that they have. And any amount of little bit of disruption is a loss in experience.
Yes.
So they can't afford any disruption, right? So they employed a technique called good bots and bad bots. So in their server farms, they put up bad bots out there who will go randomly put down some service. Now a good bot has to go and find it. Now they just triggered a thing in their mind to say, yeah, we do a lot of controls, and every time we are kind of reacting to controls, can we create a sandbox where we can do our own stress testing of controls by pushing through some artificial mistakes which we have to catch? So these kind of experimentation. The second one was, to your point, Jyotirmoy, probably 5 years back, a classic CFO digital conversation would stop at an ERP or reporting.
That's right.
And a little bit of analytics here and there. But the market and the interesting part of the startup market in India is a lot of niche startups coming up, solving for things like profitability analysis, solving for things like early warning signs, solving for things like vendor risk management, right? So suddenly now, instead of a very monolithic couple of blocks, you can start thinking of like almost a base platform.
Absolutely.
And like orchestrating type of solutions that you need to stitch things together with echoing the common ethos which I heard, which is pragmatism, right? We don't want to do for the heck of it, but how can we be more agile? How can we kind of almost like automakers, instead of building everything ourselves, start working with the ecosystem together to say how we do this? And the last thought there was, this specific client said, the way we manage our treasury is a real differentiation. Now, can I start offering that as a service to some of the smaller companies out there? So suddenly from a cost center, I start becoming a profit center. So
that's right.
fantastic kind of thoughts that are emerging. We have another 15-20 minutes. So I thought the next segment, what we'll do is we'll try to keep it brief. But a lot of audience which is coming in, and we have got leaders really on this conversation, would want to see what will this transformation look like? What are the kind of initiatives we are taking? And we can be as generic, and nothing can be super confidential, but just to give a flavor of between business objectives and technology, how are we shaping our top couple of key initiatives? And again, Jayaprakash sir, if I start with you, just 1 to 2 minutes each so that we can cover everything.
Sure. Yeah. Vivek, just I want to put only one word here. It is called dicter, DIKDER. This is nothing but how the data convert to the result, or maybe data to dollar. You can say dollar. So what I meant here is D for data, I for information, K for knowledge, DE for decision, and R for result. So how the data become the result? Because if you see that in the world, on the globe, we have about 180 zettabyte data available across the globe. So how this data can be converted to the result? Because with the data we cannot do anything, because it is uncooked items. Some food items without cook we can eat, but all the things we cannot do. Like the data, it should be cooked perfectly so that that can be converted to dollar, right? So the data should be become the information for the knowledge purpose, so that the knowledge can be used for the decision making. The decision making can be converted to the result. So this is the one word I want to keep you informed. And see that how the transformation happened here is that before we are all the CFOs. So more than the investment, we have to see the ROI also, return of investment also, right? That is a major thing. We have to see that how the either short term or long term, how the return of investment can be retrieved as much as possible. So in many cases, because the technology is a new terms nowadays, so we have to invest our investment in the shorter manner, so that we have to keep the small type of project. You have to invest it and see that how the flow is coming, because the one technology cannot be used for all the industry or all the segment, because it depend on my business and depend on the my process of the manufacturing or the services. So we have to see that how this technology can be used, or maybe automation can be used, so that If you succeed that, you can go for the furthermore. You can expand the other things.
So bring it to life. Sorry to interrupt. Can you bring it to life just to illustrate and give us a sense for what kind of initiatives are we talking of here?
Yes. So that the outcome is coming. Whether it's shoot for your business, you can go for the further expansion. Otherwise, you have to see where we have to do the modification or where you want to update. So accordingly, you can do it. So that is the one thing I want to keep you posted here. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, sir. Ashish, again coming back to you. Some examples of kind of initiatives which are currently undertaking or have undertaken, so that we get a flavor of what does the transformation in finance world look like.
Sure. So I think I'll only talk about two initiatives which we are currently working on. One is ensure that as we simplify technology and as we put in technology, we remain compliant on part of technology, because now on the fintech side, technology has evolved and there's a lot of simplification which has happened for customer end. But at the same time, applications are taking permissions, they are taking access to some of the data, right? So it's very, very important for us to ensure that we remain compliant, because now RBI has also recognized digital-based lending as one of the sector, right? And they've also come out with a working group note stating key do's and don'ts about the technology-driven lending. So they put in very interesting facts in their observations, but what they specifically focused on for the entities, basically fintech entities, to maintain the digital hygiene, also to ensure that the data is used, the permissions are used only for the purpose of which they are taking. I mean, they agree that some of the permissions are necessary, but at the same time, they also mentioned that if you're accessing the camera of a particular customer, then it is to be used only for purpose of KYC and not otherwise. So those compliant things has to be there, because as we use technology, this would be tested some point in time. Second, what we are currently initiating is how we use technology to bring in more and more synergy. When I say synergy, it's not within the organization, it's with organizations, with us and with external organizations, right? Where we can use technology to bring, basically fill the gap between us and large partners around, and work with them and make a revenue for us. So these are some of the initiatives which you're driving for the digital.
Super, Ashish, very helpful. Sugata sir, in Schneider, again, give some examples. Could be current, could be something you've already undertaken.
So we are working on a number of things. We've implemented, for instance, working with the bank, we've implemented paperless import and export document flow. We call it paperless import and exports. Basically digitized all the document flow for imports and exports, which is massive, as you know. We are also working with some fintechs now for a digital solution for onboarding and arranging channel finance for customers and partners. So that's something which is going on. Apart from this, we've used BI to develop dashboards in several areas. We've trained some of our people in finance in that application, and they've developed dashboards for sales, for pricing, for some other things. Apart from, so what the approach that we are taking is that while for the core systems there are the core systems are given, we are encouraging the development of solutions. RPA use cases is one, but then solutions like dashboards or solutions working with some vendors in certain areas, using certain applications, mindful of the fact that we'll have to finally lay down the data models, the data strategy. Cybersecurity is obviously there. With these guardrails, we are encouraging the use of small applications in different areas, which will then work seamlessly with our core systems.
Super fantastic. Neelesh?
Yeah, let me just call off two areas here. I think one is really everything which is happening around the change in consumer habits, and how do we sort of leverage that to grow the business faster. So for instance, a very interesting data point, 35% of our traffic pre-COVID used to come organic, which means we were not paying for it. Post-COVID, 70% of our traffic comes organic, we don't have to pay for it. Effectively, customer habits, even for a category like furniture, changed significantly. where people are directly coming to Pepperfry to figure out what do they need to buy. And I think there are across categories, I'm sure there'll be significant consumer changes in their behavior and adoption technology. And that's where we're throwing in a lot of new features on our website, on our app, which makes it far more easier for the consumer to either discover our products or feel confident about buying on Pepperfry. So one sort of broad theme in the organization is adoption of technology, not just by enterprises or government, but consumer is also stepped up, and how do we leverage that? The other theme actually to and bringing it closer to finance is really there is so much about you that is available outside today that can you leverage that rather than recreating things internally to support that. So to make it live, for instance, e-way bills has now become a part of our life. Do I need to still raise a transfer order in my ERP system? And can I actually leverage the e-way bill to sort of do reconciliation of stocks across organizations? So I'm eliminating a workflow, I'm eliminating reconciliations, I'm eliminating people working on it. Similar example, again, GST is putting a mandate for you to reconcile your accounts on a regular basis with your suppliers, and therefore can I dispense of no due certificates by again using the GST system there. And therefore there is so much which has happened around us. Why are we duplicating? Can we eliminate duplication? And can we leverage the infrastructure that the government is anyway forcing on us? So just two broad themes. How do you facilitate growth with consumer habit change? How do you use external information about you to amend your processes?
Lovely examples, Nilesh. I loved the last one. Everyone would say compliance is a cost. This is just like turning on its head and saying, how do I use it for an advantage? Very, very clever. Amit, your examples?
Yeah, so I think it's just not about the numbers. I think it's about the creating the value. And as it is said, financial are just the numbers, until you know the story behind preparing those financials. So from our perspective, I think from a long-term and short-term objectives, 2-3 things basically. The first and foremost is basically finding the right talent who basically can adopt those changes. And is CFO is as good as the team is. So basically the finding the right talent, having the I would say having the entrepreneurial mindset. So it's just not about the numbers. You just need to work along with the business functions and provide them the information accordingly, so the informed decision can be taken. And then adopting all those digital routes, like currently we are moving to the Power BI. So which gives your reporting, on the click of the button, basically, which used to take almost half an hour to generate one report. Now it's on the click of the button and, on a real time basis. So those changes are necessary to sustain in the system, and having from an industry specific point of view, having an industry database on a real time basis. Everything currently today is available on the online, on the web, on the respective mutual fund website, and then on the regulator website, and also having those database on a real time basis is something initiatives which we have already started.
Fantastic. Working towards information access. Yeah, Nitin.
I think from a legacy perspective, I'll just touch upon the add-ons. A lot of initiatives, frankly, if you ask me. In the last 2 years, we formed shared services, of the 4 businesses. We consolidated everybody under one roof. And from that, consolidation, then start using closing schedule, which was automated. So even started using Blackline as a closing schedule. So as minimal as that. And then going to Ariba, implementing Ariba, where we are. So from a real estate perspective, this is one industry, where the contractors are not that tech savvy. So teaching them Ariba was again a big challenge, a big, challenge for the entire business team. So bringing them on board and then making them understand how to do a vendor financing was again the second challenge. But they are, now reaping the benefit of it. The entire MSME sector, the huge MSME sector, which is getting benefit out of it. And I think all the fellow panelists, my friends, talked about BI, BO. So we are using SAP, and we started using BO. Amit was talking about connecting databases. So from a real estate perspective, we got in touch with a few of the analysts, and then we started getting the entire real estate data on our laptops with a click of button. So you have a Power BI and you have connecting database. So there's an internal database and then an external database. Matching both of them, which is, Neelesh was talking about the availability of data. Started using GST database as well. And, with a click of button, you get a one-page dashboard where you can take quick calls. Within a week's time, what has happened in the last week, residential prices, commercial real estate leasing, etc., go on and on. More from a finance perspective, started using consolidations so everything was in Excel. We started using BPC. All the 4 businesses, got into consolidation, then audit over digital documentation. So auditors are sitting and they are also sitting and their respective towns started work from home. So they needed data. So everything is digitized now, got scanning invoices, all the data for last 5-6 years we digitize and we remove the real estate. Real estate, we are in the business of real estate, so we know how to value real estate there. Yeah, so apart from that, I think the latest what we are doing is investing a lot on the cyber security and looking at data leakages. Blockchain is something which we are in touch with the government as well, especially digitizing the DAN records, especially for the residents. Wherever we are doing a residential development, we are trying to use that part of the digital stuff. Government is taking big steps on that. There's quite a few things which are not still in the public domain, but of course, Vivek, you might be knowing a lot of stuff which is happening in the back end. ITDC double checks. This is something which we have started now, more from a long-term perspective. Invested a lot on the audit and looking at some of the experts who can. So earlier we had professionals who were qualified in CISA and DISA, but slowly we are of the me and our CIOs are coming to an opinion that we need people who are experts in technologies, more experts on the SAP side. Understanding how the integrated APIs can bring in. So if, say for example, we are using the bank data a lot. I think somebody, Sugata was talking about, bank reconciliation. We are doing bank reconciliation on a daily basis. And we're also using bank data for various other purposes also. What are the loan rates across the industries? What are the trend rates which are going on, especially linking the GDP data, taking some government data also in base. So all the APIs are getting integrated. Similarly, some of the data, our data might be also be getting used. So trying to understand the entire integration is becoming very tech savvy. And of course, many of the auditors are not expert in this. So that's one area where we are investing heavily. I think we can, from business perspective, I can go on and on. Means, parking, frisking, plate number, face recognition. Now, during COVID, we had a challenge of how we can diagnose that there are only 1,500 people inside the mall. So there is a tech which has got developed. I can understand whether people moving inside the mall are maintaining the physical distance or not. So I think a lot to choose from, but yes, these are some short term and long term. We can, due to time constraint, I'm not getting into too much detail, but we can talk about a lot.
There were plenty, Nitin, there were plenty. And what I loved about it was if we see everyone's is almost like a collage. We got great ideas that all of us can take a couple of those thoughts back with us. Jyotirmoy, why don't we have you again summarize for us and probably share your thoughts on where you're seeing the trends?
Correct. So we have covered almost all. I just want to touch upon one point here. The CFO's office using traditional ERP. Now I have seen a change to evaluate SaaS. CFOs are coming in front and asking how we can leverage SaaS in our back office, in our CFO's office. And those who have already moved to SaaS, they're investing more on software which they can give them ease on compliance, maybe M&A, record to report, planning and budgeting. I think a lot of traction is happening towards SaaS, and we can see that a lot of participation is also happening from CFO's office. Vivek.
Super, fantastic. I think we're almost on time. We could have continued for another couple of rounds, but unfortunately, we'll have to just pause here. Ivan, if I bring you back in and hand it over back to you.
Thanks, Vivek. What a fantastic discussion on the role of the CFO in established companies versus new age digital companies. What wonderful insights from each of our panel members. Thank you, Jayaprakash, Sugata, Neelesh, Nitin, Ashish, Amit, and Jyotirmoy for all your insights. I'm sure our audience is leaving with some great takeaways, and let me reciprocate the compliment, Vivek. As always, you did a fantastic job of moderating this panel. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Vivek.
Vivek.
Thank you.
I'd like to take this opportunity to once again thank our partners for this summit. Presenting partners, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise and Redington. Co-presenting partner, Oracle. Digital transformation partner, IBM. Associate partners, Accenture, Clear from the makers of ClearTax and Tableau. Knowledge partner, PwC. And media partner, CEO Insights. This summit is brought to you by ET Unwired and ET Edge. To join the conversation on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and other social media platforms using the hashtag ETCFO strategy. Also tag ET Edge by typing @ET_Edge. Also, during the break between sessions, do visit and network with our partners at their virtual booths by simply clicking on the Experience Zone button at the bottom of your screen. Chat, speak, video call, or have a roundtable conversation with any of them. Visit the Resource Center and get all the information you want to read, save, or refer to from the voluminous partner resources of brand videos, exhibitor brochures, event catalogs, and the list of upcoming events. Do visit the Networking Lounge, which is a tab at the bottom of your screen where you can create a group and video chat with like-minded people. And you can return back to these live sessions by clicking on the plenary session button at the bottom of your screen. You can also take a break between sessions by clicking on the Engagement Zone tab at the bottom of your screen. If you click on the tab, you can visit the social wall where you can post your tweets and experiences using the hashtag ETCFO strategy. Click a selfie at the photo booth. Play a car game called Car Rush, specially designed for you, and visit the signature wall where you can post positive comments about the speakers, panels, content of the summit, etc. A reminder at the end of the day, before you leave, do download your digital certificate of participation by simply clicking on the digital certificate button at the bottom of your screen and save it to your desktop. Well, do stay tuned, and ladies and gentlemen, we will be back on the other side with the next session.